Hello, today we are going to review linear models. We're going to start with the idea of slope and recall that slope is just rise over run, which means change in y. This delta symbol just means change in. So change in y over change in x, which is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now we also can write it as y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2, just making sure these little subscripts are the same number. All right, so for example here, it says find the slope of the line below, going through the point -2, 1, and 8, 5. So the first thing I'm going to do is find my slope. I find the difference of the y values, so 5 minus 1, over the difference in the x values. Since I started with 5, I need to start with 8 minus -2, which equals 4 over 10, which just reduces to 2/5. There are a couple of forms of lines that we have worked with in the past. The first one is slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Some of you may recall that some textbooks used y equals ax plus b. Either way, it doesn't matter as long as we know the number in front of the x is the slope and the b value is the y-intercept, or where it crosses the y-axis. So if I need to find the equation of this line in slope-intercept form, the first thing I've got to do is find the slope. So I look for 2 points that it crosses. It looks like it goes through this point here and this point here. So now let's count our slope. It goes change in y first. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up, and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left, which means it's going to be -4. So my slope is just -5/4. So now if I want to write the equation y equals mx plus b, I write y equals m, which is -5/4 x, plus my y-intercept, which I can see right from the graph that it is 1, 2, 3, -3, but we don't want to write plus and negatives, so we're going to write y equals -5/4 x minus 3. The other form we worked with was point slope form, and this form is the one that you need to make sure you are very comfortable with. I know some of you are more comfortable with the slope-intercept form, but you really need to change your way of thinking because AP is really going to stress point slope form. Point slope form comes directly from our slope equation, which I just talked on the other slide, that slope is y minus y1 over x minus x1. So basically all they did to come up with that is they multiplied both sides by the denominator and flipped it around. So you have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now again, some of you may be more comfortable with moving that y1 over, and that is completely acceptable. Because we have calculators, a lot of times we like to have it just y equals. Most times you will see me work with that form there. M is just the slope. X1, Y1 is just some random point given on the line, which is a little bit nicer than points slope-intercept form because you had to be given the y-intercept, otherwise you had to do some algebra. So that's why you're going to find point slope form to be the form of choice. All right, let's look at our first example here. It says find the point slope equation of a line through the point 4, 7 with slope -3. So this is my x1, this is my y1, this is my slope. If I recall that my equation in point slope form is simply y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and we just plug these numbers directly where they go we end up with y minus 7 equals negative 3 times x minus 4, and we're done. Now, sometimes it's not that easy. We're given 2 points. So the first thing we have to do when we're just given 2 points is find the slope between the points. Once we find the slope, then we can use either one of the points to put it in point slope form again. Okay, so if I'm given 2 points, say negative 4 and 5, and 6 and 11, and I want to write the equation of the line that passes through those 2 points, I need to first find my slope. So I'm going to do that by taking the difference of my y values, 11 minus 5, divided by my x values. So since I started with 11 here, I need to make sure that 6 is on bottom first. So 6 minus negative 4, which becomes 6 over 10, which reduces to 3/5. So now I know my slope is 3/5. I can use either point, and I think so I don't make any little mistakes, I'm going to use the point that doesn't have any negatives in it. So I don't make the mistake of forgetting to change my sign. So I'm going to use 6/11. So I'm going to do y minus my y1, which is 11, equals my slope, which is 3/5, times x minus 6, or x1. Now this is a completely acceptable answer as well. Y minus 5 equals 3/5 times x minus a negative 4 really means plus 4. So either one of those are acceptable answers. We have 2 special lines that we want to talk about, which is the horizontal line and the vertical line. Horizontal lines are in the form y equals some constant, because everywhere on the horizontal line you will see the y value is exactly the same. Here it's 2, here it's 2, here it's 2. So when you go to write the equation of that horizontal line, all you have to do is write y equals 2. Now vertical lines are in the form x equals some constant. So when you look at vertical lines, you can see everywhere along this line here, x is equal to the same value, and that value happens to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So that line is x equals negative 4. If we look at the red line here, again, you will see it's vertical, so right away I should know it's x equals. And then I just see, what does x equal? 1, 2, 3. It equals 3 all along that line. That is the equation of those 3 lines. When talking about lines, we a lot of times talk about parallel lines and perpendicular lines. Parallel lines, as we recall, are lines that never cross. And we know something about their slopes. If they never cross, they have to have exactly the same slope. They need to be going up and over at the same rate so that they never cross each other. Perpendicular lines are special in the way that they cross as well. They cross at a 90-degree angle. And we also know something about their slopes. We know that they have opposite reciprocal slopes. Now what's that mean? Simply, if I know the slope of my line is, let's say, 2/3, then I know the perpendicular line is going to be the opposite sign of 2/3, so it's going to be negative since 2/3 is positive, and then reciprocal just means flip it. So since it's 2/3, I'm going to flip it to 3/2, and that's what opposite reciprocal slopes mean. So anytime you multiply a slope and its perpendicular slope, you should always get -1. All right, so let's look at this example. It says find the equation of a line passing through the point 2, 1, perpendicular to y equals 5x minus 3. The first thing we have to do is figure out, well, what's the slope? Well, the slope of this line is 5. So that means my perpendicular slope has to be opposite of 5, which means it's negative. And the reciprocal of 5, well, we can write 5 as 5 over 1. So the reciprocal is 1 over 5. So my slope is negative 1 over 5. Now we also know, if we're going back to our wonderful point slope form, I'll write it up here just to have you remember it. We know that this is my x1 value and this is my y1 value. So all I have to do is plug my two numbers in, or my 3 I should say, y minus 1 equals negative 1/5 x minus 2, and we're done. So I hope that this was a good review for you and that you understand everything you need to know about linear models. And I also hope that this excites you, because now you get to realize that in calculus, you will be doing things that you have already done in your algebra classes.